Nwaneri just carried Arsenal to a brilliant victory against Leicester City with one of his best performances for the club. In this video, we're going to analyse every single thing he did and why he is one of the best players at the age of 17 already. So let's get into it. Now, we have spoken a lot on this channel about Nwaneri's impact within this team and why he should be the ultimate starting right winger for the club right now. Now, none of that has changed, and I think Nwaneri's importance on the team is growing by the week. And against Leicester, I saw a player at just the age of 17 take the game by the scruff of the neck to give Arsenal that victory. Now, one of the things I loved about his inclusion in this game is that he was willing to come deeper and work hard defensively and help Timber in 2v1s, which I thought is very important, something we look for a lot in our wingers. But I loved him more importantly in them central areas. This is when he would come deeper to receive or pick up the ball, and Odegaard would actually go in front of him a little bit. This would allow Nwaneri to actually come inside with the ball and cut across the pitch, which is something he is incredibly good at doing. He is able to ride multiple challenges in them central areas to keep the ball. His physicality and his technique are incredible, where they just simply can't tackle him, and he's able to shift the ball out wide to Sterling. Now, this is brilliant because it gives Arsenal a quick transition onto the other side and takes out a couple of the midfielders in the game quickly. This means when Sterling now has a 1v1, there's no one that can come over and make that a 2v1, which should be brilliant for any winger that can take on their man. But unfortunately, that is not what the case is with Sterling, but it's still a brilliant effort by Nwaneri. Now, Nwaneri is incredibly talented because he can do so much, but in these areas, he just is more effective. When Arsenal can switch the ball quick to him, he can bring it down from the air amazingly and pass it through, even doing some long over-the-top through balls for on-rushing players like Rice we saw a few times. And I do love how he is a real right half creative channel player. He's not someone that benefits from that central midfield area completely. We've just spoke about how great he is in there, but he is someone that actually does most of his important work in that final third, which is something Arsenal are missing. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but Odegaard right now in that attacking third is not great. The best he is at in that mode for Arsenal is when they have the team penned into the final third. This is where Odegaard can get onto the ball, have a little bit more time to make some passes, and this is usually where you see him make them incredible little lobs or intricate passes inside the channels, which do really help. But in games like this where it's a little bit more open and Arsenal couldn't really get sustained possession like that very far up the pitch other than a few couple of minutes around the game, it's a game where you need someone like Nwaneri who has a lot more variety in his creative nature. Now, Nwaneri in this game I do think was also limited by the players around him. He kept receiving the ball on the wing into the half channel and kept getting two players always come up to him. Now, this was a problem yet again because Odegaard barely ever made that run around him. He did a few times in that first half, but not often enough. And it seemed like in this game, Timber didn't have as much freedom to run on the overlap or in-lap than you usually see. It seemed like we were a little bit more wary to do that. This is something I think would improve with Ben White coming into the team, and obviously that would have that connection there with Nwaneri so he can come inside a lot more, because you realistically want him in them sort of spaces. Now, this is important because Arsenal changed this in the second half, which made Nwaneri even more effective. In that second half, Odegaard started becoming a little bit more of a creator around the pitch completely, and we didn't rely on Rice necessarily as much as we did in the first half to make them runs all the time. So Odegaard was actually picking up a lot more positions up centrally and more importantly on that left hand side. This often a lot of the game gave Nwaneri a little bit more space to maneuver into and a little bit more freedom to actually come inside a lot more than going on the outside. Now, the reason why Nwaneri is obviously wanting this to happen is because he does still prefer coming inside. We have spoken about his shots from there. He had a really good one in this game which hit the bar, but he can quickly turn on a 6-foot and get that shot away, which is even more effective. I think it's evidently clear from this game that Nwaneri is an elite shot player. This guy, from even a little amount of control, can get a lot of power on his shots and they can go into the top corner. In this game, he was unlucky for that not to happen, but he obviously had that one that hit the bar where there's 3 players around him, he quickly moves inside and they cannot react. And the one where he hit the post from, which was actually a really good save by Hermansen in goal for Leicester, is another one of the effects that Nwaneri has been used. He's been that player, the last man on the break, ready for that pass. Here he has a little amount of ability to actually have that power and that little step over, which gives him enough to get in front of the defenders to get that shot away. This is something we saw Nwaneri do a lot in this game, where he's is stood up with a player one-on-one and he'll quickly do a step over and run past him. Now he hasn't got this down to a T and sometimes they still catch up with him, but that explosiveness is definitely there, which is something Arsenal can use even more. Now when it comes to being an actual winger though, he still excels because he loves the final third channel. Like we said, with him picking up positions inside or outside, he can do it all. And we've spoken about it before where I think Nwaneri has the potential to be a two-way winger fully if he wants to be, but he is a player that definitely prefers coming inside. It's where you see most of his crosses from, which are actually effective, and most of the things that he does. Now in this game, he did prove once and for all that he can do both to a brilliant level. There was many times, and I actually think he didn't quite evenly amount, where in that first half he would be stood up with a defender and he would do that little explosive move we spoke about on the round the outside of a player to cross the ball in on the byline. Now in these positions, because it is very touch and go and he just about gets the ball as it goes off, you often see him just kind of smash the ball in there into a good area, but he's not really looking up for any pullbacks or anything, which is something we will have to develop, but I still like this level nonetheless. This is incredibly important for Arsenal because he is probably the only player in the team that has this sort of explosiveness to go past them. Now Trossard has a decent level of being stop-start and being able to just get a cross in with one defender on him, but if there's 2 or 3 players on Nwaneri, he can go either side because he is just so quick when he turns and makes that initial movement. This was a constant threat all game where he could go on the outside or the inside and they just didn't know what to do, and he was being able to get into better positions as the game continued because Odegaard was actually leaving him alone and allowing him to have that space and take them players on, which he can do. It is something we have spoken about with same with Saka, where it's if you have 2 or 3 players on Saka, he can do the job, and sometimes even you being close to him gets in his way, and sometimes giving him that space can be the freedom. I genuinely think the same with Nwaneri. You want this guy shooting as much as possible, and he's definitely not afraid to shoot. He had a few shots in this game in the end where the defender is practically on the same part of the pitch as him and he still manages to get that effort away. And this is even more effective because it gets to the point where they're trying to push him even further out wide or into positions where you can't really see him having a shot from. Then he can do his brilliant inside crosses. We saw it for the first goal, which was a brilliant cross by Nwaneri. He gets into that little half channel where Timber helps him and you can see Odegaard is not next to him in this moment, and he's able to stop the ball in its tracks and quickly put a brilliant cross over the top to Marino, who heads it into the open goal. Not only is he quick and decisive with his action that he makes, any sort of half space within that channel on the right hand side he is effective from. He can find a shot from if he goes on the outside, and there was a few times they had to close him down because they were scared he was going to shoot when he came inside, like we saw against Genoa. And then when he's a little bit further out wide, he can do this sort of magic as well. And it was incredible how he really took the team on his back, pulled us forward, and was really our only saving grace going forward until Marino came on. Now just having a look at some of the stats, it really paints a picture of how good of a game this guy just had. First of all, I want to show the difference in touches he has had in this game compared to his other games. I've spoken about his involvement not being a lot and he's realistically been that island player, but in this game he was involved in every phase of play, deep in that effective final third. So he had 62 touches and made 28 out of his 32 passes, which is a lot more than he has been getting. Not only that, he had 3 shots. He obviously hit the woodwork twice, but here the most important stat is the 6 out of 7 dribbles successfully made. He made the most dribbles in the match. The entire Arsenal team other than him made 8 dribbles overall, and he made 6 out of 7 himself. He almost completely outdid Christensen, who's a brilliant defender who actually had a good game as well. The entire time he was just able to go left or right and go past multiple players at each moment, and Arsenal need someone to have that sort of confidence to do that. Not only that, he made 2 passes into the final third with 3 out of 10 crosses successful and 1 out of 3 accurate long ball. Now I want to quickly speak as well on that accurate crosses. We spoke about how he does a lot of crosses and he's not necessarily most accurate with them, but in this game I really felt sorry for him. There was not a lot of options a lot of the time. He would go to the byline and cross it in, and Trossard's in the middle, not going to really win a header. But as soon as Marino came on, he had an outlet to aim for, and Marino made some really good runs, especially back post I think a lot of the time, which really helped Nwaneri. Now that's not the only thing, because from a physical perspective I do think Nwaneri is operating at a scary level. He made the most tackles in the game, which is even crazy to say, and he made 4 recoveries. But the main thing that I thought was incredibly important was the fact he won 12 duels and lost 3. Considering he is not tall, he won 2 out of 2 aerial duels and 10 out of 13 on the floor. There was many times where players would come into him, get a bit physical, and he would just shrug them off like they weren't there. And it's been a problem I've had with people like Sterling, with people like Odegaard, where they are a little bit lackluster in that physical nature, and sometimes we need that in the forward areas, which we did today. Nwaneri had that in abundance, and he's a fighter. He tries his best to always win that ball back and keep it no matter what. He was very intelligent on the ball, doing a lot of great things. And he didn't get a goal today, but in my eyes it was his best performance and deserved the assist in the end, and on any other given day has way more goal contributions in a team that actually is attacking altogether. Now there's a lot of questions we still have about Nwaneri's future. Is it a right wing if Saka comes back? Do you see him coming into midfield? But I have seen enough from him now in this game with involvement in the team, I think, to pretty much allow this kid to do anything he wants. He is our best player right now, and he's going to be a major component. Hopefully he stays fit for the upcoming weeks. Now let me know in the comments what you guys thought about Nwaneri's performance, and let me know who else you would like to see me talk about. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.